Porter, come on up. These are your bar stools. So,
I'll take the clean one.
take the clean one. So Porter's going to do a quick little fireside chat with a, with a fan that read the book and that's here tonight, which is ironic and good. So Porter, Gale, everybody.
Thank you. All right. It's awesome to be here. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. A lot of you know that I used to run marketing at Virgin America. And when I worked there, what happened was that I was constantly flying on planes, talking to everybody. So if you would have been sitting here, I would have started asking you tons of questions, finding out about your life. And what I found was that the more people I met, the more interesting my life was becoming. And that I had this mindset of not flying with my headphones on, you know? So ultimately, after 4 years of that, and also getting really into social media, because we were the first airline to have full fleet Wi-Fi, yay, right? I decided to write this book. And so what my book is about is the power of relationships and the power of connecting. So I was at the Commonwealth Club the other night speaking, and I brought my mom with me. I didn't bring her tonight. She's at the movies. But there was a nice gentleman here. I don't know where Ben is, but I ran into Ben tonight, and I was like, oh, my God, thanks for taking care of my mom. You talked to her the whole night while I was chatting at the Commonwealth Club. I really appreciate it. So, Ben, even though you're 20 years younger, my mom thinks you'd be a good husband for me, so let's talk. Yeah. But so Ben was talking to Rika, who he introduced me to. Did I say that right, Rika? And she said, oh my God, I've read your book. And so we started chatting, and my mom didn't pay you, did she? No, she didn't pay you. So I said, oh, tell me what did you think? Did you like it? And she actually was like playing it back like I had planted her here in the room to make me feel good. So I decided that I would have her come up on stage. So come on up. She's going to spontaneously be my guest tonight. So thank you for that. A brave woman. So now in 2 minutes of talking, I'm not even sure how we figured this out, but we both have porn stars that have the same name as us. I thought that's really odd, right? Right? So Rika, what's the porn star's name?
Nakazawa. Rika Nakazawa.
Okay, so we've never met before. The porn star that has my name is Gale Porter. So I always tell people that when I come to meet them. But anyway, so the book. So you actually read the book. I didn't plant you here.
No, but the truth is, Riley, your daughter actually paid me to be here.
She did.
And her virtual currency on one of her many
She's using Ben to pay people to read my book.
No, so it's interesting because your book, part of it is about recognizing, celebrating serendipity. And I think that this is actually a really good example of it. I actually just got back from Fiji last night, and I was trying to figure out when we're heading out to Fiji something to read because it's a 10-hour flight from LA. And I was telling Porter this, but some of my friends are like, "Oh, you should read Eat, Pray, Love," and I was like, I don't know if I want to read that book on the way over. But then I somehow came across. I don't even remember how I came across your book, but I looked at it and I thought, wow, this sounds really interesting. So to answer your question, Miles, what brought me here tonight was actually I'm severely jet lagged. I wasn't even going to come tonight, no disrespect. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to chill. But then I was like, oh yeah, who's going to be there? And I looked on the program and I was like, wait, I just read her book. I have to go. And then of course, Ben catalyzed this meeting. So I was telling Porter that I picked up her book because it really sort of synchronized with a lot of different things that have been going on in my life, personally and professionally. And part of sort of what was really fascinating was I had just come out, I attended a Thomas Friedman conference that was up in the city about 3 weeks ago. I don't know if anybody here went to that. But it was really amazing. It was sort of like a mini TED conference because you had all these, political leaders, business leaders, all talking about the confluence of the human existence and what that means, like living in this world. And so that combined with, I'm heavily into lean and agile and sort of new ways of thinking about business. And at the conference, a business leader, I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was somebody, but if I'm wrong, I'm going to be documented and then it's over. But somebody said people should take a lean approach to their life. Essentially, if you don't know about lean, one of the principles is about pivoting.
Well, I'm going to stop you and I'm going to dive into a little bit more stuff about the book.
Yeah, no, so I was going to get there actually. Pivoting. So, pivoting. So when I read Gale's book, it was Porter's book. It was very interesting because, sorry, you're not the Porter's book.
Star.
When I was reading Porter's book, it was very much about sort of rediscovering yourself and not necessarily walking this linear line, and about how relationships and the networks and how you engage with people is how you get there, or part of how you get there, and really sort of a huge kernel of truth that really resonated with me was also about authenticity. So not networking for the sake of trying to climb the corporate ladder or to just try to get what you want, because one of the things you talk about in your book is about give, and then you'll get. So the notion that, sort of a pay it forward style, and it was just really so impactful for me sitting on the flight, but through her book sort of being taken out into this cosmos of sort of my existence and how I resonate with people and what that really means and what that really brings in terms of, it's not about the money, I'm sure that's great, but what really is the essence of being happy and feeling like a fulfilled person in life. And
You're so sweet.
It was just amazing.
So thank you. So that's a good summary of a lot of things in the book. But what I did was I interviewed about 60 people. So there's all sorts of tech stories in it. I interviewed Dick from Twitter, and it's a combination of stories and exercises. And I guess just to raising your hands, like how many people hate networking? Like if you're here, you probably don't hate it, but we got 1 or 2, 3. Oh, there are more. The more hands are coming up, right? So yeah, like I don't know, about half of you, but most people have had some thoughts where it's like you go to a party and you don't know how to talk to somebody, or you're shy, or you feel like you're not smart enough. So the book really gives you lots of tools and tips, and it really encourages people to focus on what are you passionate about, and rather than focusing on money and the big idea, like here I would say focus on who you're meeting and focus on the relationships that can change your life. So I do have some books that I'm going to give away tonight. So if you guys have questions, we can pick 6 people to have questions.
And the stories that she tells in the book are so great because they're from every rung, every walk of life, and they're stories that really I think appeal and resonate with everybody. And it was great.
Did you have a favorite story in the book?
So I was telling you, one of the really, the stories about the impact of social media was the story about the gentleman that came down with the leukemia or the blood cancer and had a really hard time finding a match because.
How many of you know Amit Gupta? A couple of you? Well, his story's in the book. He needed to find a bone marrow match within like 60 days, and he used social media. And so it's really talking about the world is getting smaller. We used to be 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and now we're 3 degrees of Porter Gale, and 3 degrees, right? And because of that, also our circle of empathy is a lot larger. So you have a larger influence of people that you're impacting. So it's really important to decide kind of what you stand for and be authentic.
And I like the story when Richard Branson called you directly, too. That was pretty cool.
I'll tell that, and then we'll move into the Q&A. We didn't have the time clock on, so I have no idea if we're past 5 minutes. But so just talking about spontaneity and like going for it, I obviously worked with Sir Richard, and he's a great influence on me, an amazing person to work for. But there were some kids that were from an underserved school in LA. They were high school kids. They sent me a video. They were up for a contest, and it basically said, Sir Richard, will you vote for us? And I had never asked him a favor, and I thought, these kids are pretty special. Like they took the time to put together this amazing video, and I sent it to him, and I said, Richard, it's Porter. I know you're busy, but can you, tweet or put a video on Ustream or do something for these kids? And he called me the next morning. He said, well, I don't really need to tweet. I'm in LA. If you can gather them up, I'll meet with them, just get them to the Sunset Marquee. So, within 24 hours, these amazing group of kids had a 45-minute meeting with Sir Richard. And what I think's amazing about that is that he valued them. He, looked them in the eye and said, what's holding you back? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? And he really changed their lives. So the power of these random moments and what can happen is amazing. So let's move into Q&A and give away a couple books. Right there in the front.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. So my question is, what is your approach to networking, like in everyday life, if, for example, on your sitting on the plane to go somewhere, or supermarket, or
Yeah.
do you think about it all the time, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually networking is a lifestyle. It's about being open. It's about being positive, optimistic. But on a plane, like it's funny, people will say, well, how do you start a conversation on a plane? And really all you have to do is say, hi, my name's Porter, you know, what's your, and then people are like, oh my God, she's like, who is this person? So you can really talk to anyone and find out really amazing things. And you bring headphones in case you don't want to talk to them. But, you know, be open, be positive, shake up your routine, and, you know, don't stay home behind the computer. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to talk to you later, by the way.
What's that?
I would like to talk to you later.
You'd like to talk to me later?
Yes.
Excellent. I love that. My Twitter handle. Am I blushing? I think so. Yeah. Gale Porter. I'm going to change my name too.
What is it about Virgin? Why does it come across as such a cool company?
Virgin? Well, it's a very defined brand identity. And so a lot of the book is actually about simplifying and knowing what you stand for. And with Virgin, it was all about irreverence, putting the customer first, and innovation. And so I use lots of examples in the book to teach people to be as, you know, bold and specific and clear. So I've used 20 years of marketing experience to try to make things clearer in the book. But Virgin's an amazing brand. It was a great 4 years. So a book for you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Looks like we've got some in the mid-level. Do you want my phone number too? Kidding.
So I just finished reading Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In.
Uh-huh.
And I have a lot of inspiration from that. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are about the role of women in leadership bringing authenticity into the workplace.
Yeah, great question. You know, I read her book. I think it's a good book, and it's bringing a lot of issues to light. There's a very small section of that book which it doesn't go into very deeply, but it's talking about the queen bee syndrome. And the queen bee syndrome is when women aren't supporting each other when they get to higher levels. And I actually think that's a big problem. And so I think a lot of the women in the workplace, it's really about women needing to support women more, and also looking at workplaces and how we can change them so that we can all collaborate together. So I think it's something that, you know, both men and women need to address. Because when I was writing the book, I talked to tons of women, and I'd say, you know, who are your mentors? And they'd be like, men. And most of mine were men too. So I say we all have work to do about the issue, and it's not a one-sided thing. It's a book for you too. Thanks for the question.
What are your recommendations for young professionals or recent graduates to find the right people for their future career?
Yeah, you know, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn right now for business networking, and I've interviewed tons of recruiters, and they're all using it. Even people at Google that are getting hired right off of LinkedIn. So have a good LinkedIn profile, and then don't be scared to reach out. I mean, those kids meeting Richard Branson just shows you that you can do it. Dennis Crowley from Foursquare, I interviewed him, and he talks about how he'll take coffee meetings sometime from Twitter. And so just go for it and try and add value to try to get the meeting. Great. Got 2 more books left.
I have a question. How about international networking? Begin net, we know each other better, we can carry on. And how we can find some co-founder or mentor in your other country, and what the type you give for that?
Okay. I didn't really understand the question. Was it about if you have international people and finding co-founders and globalization?
In other country or some mentor in other country.
Got it. Okay. I do talk a lot about that in this chapter, all about technology, but the world has completely changed, obviously, because of tech. And so the fact that we're not all working in offices chained to a desk and we can be working globally, I write a lot about how innovation comes from collaboration, and that when you look at innovation in the past, somebody that invented the car or the light bulb, it was a single person, and now it's together. It's innovation, it's people coming together. So tapping technology to use globalization and crowdsourcing and coming together is the way of the future. And so if you're not a good collaborator, you got to think about why and figure out how to get better at it. I hope I answered your question. Got one more book. Right in the front row? Yeah, of course. I do. I actually am not a natural networker. I was very shy when I was young, so I've learned how to do it, and I talk about that in the book. But I recharge all the time. Like, I hike nonstop in Marin and, spend a lot of time with my family. But yeah, I think you have to have a balance and make sure that you're not overdoing it. But if you've figured out who you are and what you want to do, it's easier to know what events are productive, and you can start filtering and making decisions. So that's why it's really important to not just be all about business cards and getting out there and being random. Be focused and have a plan. All right. Well, Miles, thanks so much for having us here.
Thank you so much. Porter Gale, everybody. Good job. Right on.